All right. Everybody settled, okay? Oh my goodness, filling up. All right, listen, we're going to get this party started. Like I said, there's a lot to go through. I don't want to keep people up too late, all right? So, you've all seen this chart here, the three great American solar eclipses, 2017, 2023, and 2024. And 2021 up there in the Great White North. This is heavy stuff here, folks. This is very heavy. This is, like I said, this is signs and wonders time, okay? This would have ancient soothsayers hiding under their beds. And this is just the start of it, all right? This is just the start of it. All right. Not only do we have the great eclipse coming, but we are also in Mercury retrograde. Now, I had been planning on getting the book project started this month. I mean, not started. I mean, getting ready to get it out to market. And I've decided against that. I've already had a very challenging Mercury retrograde, and I am not pushing my luck, and I don't think any of us should. This month, this April, do not push your luck, okay? Just play it safe. Play it safe, all right? But that is signs and wonder number 2 in the heavens. The world hasn't seen cicadas like this since 1803. Brood 19 and Brood 13 will both emerge this spring. The last time these bugs showed up at the same time in the United States, Thomas Jefferson was president. This is just like total X-Files kind of sounding stuff here. This is crazy. I believe this is all in the Midwest, though. But the Midwest is kind of what we're looking at today. Cicadas, I always associate with locusts. To me, I believe that they are kind of like cousins to the locusts. They're in the same order, but they, to me, synchronistically and prophetically, these are plagues of locusts, okay? And I've gone over this back in 2017, as a matter of fact. So this is just another big one, okay? This is a big one. At the same time, we're seeing the Great American Eclipse. The White House has launched this Cancer moon shot. Okay, so there's obviously a double entendre there, Cancer being the sign of the moon. This is unsettling. This whole project is unsettling. I don't like it. I think this is a major Depop program, okay? Major Depop program. So keep an eye out for that. And of course, all these companies that brought us the stabby wabby are now promising cancer vaccines, just like in I Am Legend, right? Now, you probably heard some of these stories. Texas officials warn schools to close ahead of solar eclipse, okay? And it's also in Oklahoma, they're calling out the National Guard to provide hazmat response. This isn't just Texas and Oklahoma. This is a number of different states. Of course, the eclipse is going right through both states, so you can kind of understand their nervousness. But I think there's a larger issue at work here, okay, besides that. What happened the last time 2 eclipses formed a giant X over the new Madrid fault zone? The last time 2 eclipses formed a giant X over the new Madrid fault zone. Let me just read this to you guys. It's interesting to note that where these 2 rare total solar eclipses in just 7 years meet, marking an X onto America, is near the new Madrid fault zone, which is 6 times larger than the San Andreas fault zone in California. Just over 200 years ago, a series of absolutely devastating earthquakes along the New Madrid Fault Zone opened very deep fissures in the ground, causing the Mississippi River to run backwards in places. I mean, I don't even know how to respond to this. and the earthquakes were felt far away on the East Coast. They were the strongest earthquakes ever recorded east of the Rocky Mountains, and scientists tell us that it's only a matter of time before we experience similar earthquakes. It is believed those earthquakes shook an area 10 times larger than that impacted by the Great San Francisco earthquake of 1906. It was said some of the giant cracks that opened along the ground were up to 5 miles long, and the stench of fire and brimstone hung in the air for months afterwards. Brimstone is sulfur, in case you didn't know that. I'd just like to give the heads up to Gary for pointing out that first article there. But this is why they're calling out the troops, so to speak. This is why they're being overcautious. I have not heard of any seismic activity coming out of the Midwest, or unusual seismic. There's always seismic activity, but I haven't heard of anything unusual. So this may be a bullet we're going to dodge, but I do understand why they are nervous about this. And just even on the synchronistic plane, this is major. Very, very major. Now let's talk about Algol. Algol we've talked about quite a bit, the demon star. When the demons had Rosh Agul, the head of Medusa, the Gorgon, in the constellation of Perseus. Algol is, I very much believe that all the one-eye symbolism that you see in the media and so on is reference to an Algol cult. I don't believe that people doing most of those one-eye things even understand what they're doing, but I think that is the meaning of it, Algol cult. Okay, Algol was known to the Egyptians as the Eye of Horus. It's a blinking binary star. It's the wounded Eye of Horus. The Egyptians were pretty cool with it, but a lot of other people were not. I think the Greeks and the Arabs did not much care for Algol, but there is, by my account, definitely an Algol cult out there. And I believe that it's one of the many cults in the military, which is why this next thing that we're going to discuss is so momentous, and why I think that we're just looking at a lot of bad omens for the ruling class in this country. Okay. So you remember we talked about the Black Swan event in the last video that I had done. You're very well familiar with this. The Baltimore Bridge collapse, the Black Swan event. Now I want you to look at this ship for a moment, because just imagine the size of this thing. Those containers are the size of railroad cars. And they're at least 15 deep, 15 wide. This is an enormous vessel that hit an enormous bridge. This is, okay, the authorities are trying to play this down. I think this is a huge, huge problem, and much more serious than we're being led to believe. And we'll take a look at why I believe that in a moment. Right here. This is sonar of the bridge collapse. And all this debris here you see is all solid metal on the ocean, or on the floor. It's not the ocean, I guess it would be on the floor of the river. So on the riverbed, this is what you're looking at here. This is going to take forever to clean up. This is a catastrophe. They said they're going to try opening the channel. Maybe they can, at least a small part. It's going to take a long time to get this debris. Like I said, if this was a sabotage attack, this was a master stroke, okay? I mean, on whose ever part, if that's what this is, we are looking at almost a kill shot level attack. Because as you've probably read, and as I've said before, this bridge is a major throughway. It's one of the only major throughways for hazardous materials. So all chemicals, explosives, solvents, all these kind of things that need to be shipped, that are such an important part of all industry, can, in this particular area of the country, this is the main thoroughfare for transporting this materials. And also, this is a main thoroughfare for people who work on the port, the rather massive port of Baltimore. This is a catastrophe. Like I said, they're playing it down, but this is, by any objective standard, a major catastrophe and is going to have major economic impact, particularly in Maryland. Now, two of the ships, fastest U.S. sea lift ships, trapped by the Baltimore Bridge collapse. These ships had been docked. These can go 33 knots in the open seas, which is amazingly fast for a ship that size. When I believe that these were used in the Gulf War and the Iraq War, any major U.S. overseas military mission, you're going to be using these things to transport material. And these things are trapped. Okay, they're trapped. Oh, by the way, the channel they said that they're going to clear out would be 11 feet deep. It's ludicrous. I mean, the hulls of these things, of many of these ships, go 30, 40, 50 feet under the water. It's just absolutely ludicrous. I can't even imagine how they're going to justify that. But anyway, this is called the Algol class. And like I said, this is why one of the reasons why I believe that this is a cult within the military, particularly the U.S. Navy, which, like I said, is the top of the heap. They basically run the world insofar as moving things around this world and making sure the shipping lanes stay open. If, God forbid, there's a hot war in Taiwan, there's going to be problems. But these are the Algol class ships, okay? And there is a photo of one of them docked at the port of Baltimore on the upper right-hand corner. Now, you've heard me talk a lot about the stars, and maybe some of you are like, what is this star stuff all about? I don't get this stuff. Well, let's look at the Algol sea lift ships. The SS Algol, the SS Bellatrix, the SS Denebola, the SS Pollux, the SS Altair, the SS Regulus, the SS Capella, and the SS Antares. Okay, I mean, and notice that they had all these generic names before, like Sealand McLean, Sealand Commerce. Somehow they were renamed after all these giant stars in the night sky. These were all very major stars in the night sky. Some of the biggest, okay? I can't believe this. I just, my head is just spinning from all this. The significance of this now is that you've heard me talk a lot about the Royal Arch, which is the galactic plane, aka the Milky Way, that arches up to the northern hemisphere of the celestial globe. And we have these two, what I call these stairways to heaven, or heaven's gates, right? And we have these at Orion, and we have them at, we have them at Gemini. Gemini, of course, Gemini. And also at Scorpio, okay, or Scorpius, if you want to be a stickler about it. Okay, so Denebola is the tail of the lion, and Regulus is the heart of the lion, okay? Regulus played a very major part in Heaven Upside Down in Las Vegas, if you know what I'm saying. Pollux, of course, is Castor and Pollux in Gemini. Bellatrix. Bellatrix is in... I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing here. Oh, of course, Bellatrix is in Orion, I'm sorry. Algol is in Perseus, or Medusa, as I said. Altair is in Aquila, the eagle. And Antares is in Scorpius, right there at the gate to heaven, heaven's gate, stairway to heaven. So these names were not chosen incidentally. These are all very, very major stars in the practice of star magic, particularly Masonic star magic. So again, this is not only a logistical disaster, but also a symbolic disaster, a synchromistic disaster. And there's the nebula. There's Leo the lion, Regulus the heart of the lion. Okay, and there's the sickle in the head. All these things should be familiar to you guys from the work I did on Las Vegas. Okay. How to find Algol, the demon star in the Perseus constellation. And it is so it's not only a binary star, it's apparently a trinary star, if that's a term I can use. So it blinks on and off because these two satellite stars block its light. Okay, so Algol, but like I said, this is very big deal. Very big deal. And I would argue that Algol is the root of algorithm, okay, because of the binary. This is very important to the Egyptians. I'm going to do a series on decoding Egyptian art because I believe that most of it is stellar. So we have Aries, Algol, Taurus being Isis with the cow horns there. Gemini, obviously, with the twin reeds, all right? And again, Algol is the eye of Horus. So Algol is at the center of this, okay? It's at the absolute center of this. So we are looking at some extraordinarily potent symbology here. And like I said, this is not only a crippling of military capacity, but it is a symbolic disaster. And never underestimate the importance of that, all right? Antares, brightest star in Scorpio, is the scorpion. The scorpion goddess Serket was often said to protect the deities from Apep, aka Apophis, the great snake demon of evil, sometimes being depicted as the guard when Apep was captured. So what Apep Apophis is and why Antares guards against it is that is the galactic plane beneath the ecliptic, beneath the zodiac. And we're going to see this again and again. This stellar symbolism is incredibly ancient, is incredibly potent, and I believe that it is embedded into so many different religious systems that your head would spin, all right? Now, I've talked about this before. The Eye of Ra is the barge of Ra. Ophiuchus is what the Greeks called it. Jacob in the Hebrew. Okay. The tail of Scorpio is that little curly Q there that follows the shape of the tail of Scorpio. The eye itself is Ra's barge, and this is going to be very important when we start to look at the eclipse. This all relates to the eclipse, okay? It's because the underworld beneath the path of the sun was seen to swallow the sun during these eclipses, okay? So this is all incredibly, incredibly potent symbolism here. Very ancient. Oh, and this is where NASA comes in. This is where NASA comes in. NASA, who I like to call not a space agency. They are just a very, very expensive ritual priesthood, okay? NASA does two things. It tests missiles for the military, and it conducts star magic rituals, all right? That's the way it is, folks. That is, nobody's going anywhere. Nobody's going to Mars. Nobody's going to Proxima Centauri. Nobody's going to the moon. Nobody's going anywhere. This is because NASA exists for magic, star magic, period. Okay, period. NASA will fire 3 rockets at the solar eclipse. I mean, here's your proof right here. I mean, it's how much more clear can it possibly be? What is the point of firing 3 rockets at the solar eclipse? There's no science. Come on, there's no science there. This is absolutely absurd. This is 100% ritual, pure ritual, straight, no chaser. And I'll show you exactly why it is, okay? Now, they call this mission... NASA, you gotta just laugh. APEP, aka Apophis. The acronym is so tortured, I'm not even going to dignify it by telling you what it's allegedly supposed to stand for. It's absurd. But you see the usual suspects. We see NASA, Dartmouth, Embry, MIT, Boulder. I'm not sure what AFRL is. It might be Air Force Research Laboratories, which probably is. So, I mean, there's just no science here. There's no point in firing missiles at an eclipse, which is far beyond the reach of these missiles. It's just absurd. It's laughable. But here we go. So this is Apophis. Okay, so look at that yellow line there that goes through all the major constellations of the zodiac. Okay, that is the ecliptic. All right, that is the ecliptic. That is the sun's path through the celestial globe. And below that, that straight line is the equator, the celestial equator, the galactic equator. Now the Milky Way sort of curls through the ecliptic there. Okay, and we're going to be looking at this particular image again when we do our smiley face presentation. Get ready for that. You're going to be seeing this again, all right? Because I think it's very important. But Apophis is that area. So just look at that yellow line there, that sort of waving yellow line there that goes through all the major constellations of the zodiac. Apophis, what they call Apophis, is the galactic plane beneath that. Now, I'm not exactly sure how many of these constellations in the south that the Egyptians knew of. Probably most of them, but some of them, most of the southern constellations were named, 17th, 18th, 19th century. They're fairly recent. That's why the Masons put their little triangular Austrine and Cercinus, the square and compass, right in the middle of the sky there. But anyway, that is Apophis, okay? Now, what exactly the significance of that might be is something we can explore at a later point, but for our purposes, it specifically has to do with the eclipse, okay? Specifically has to do with the eclipse. And eclipses were major events throughout history, okay? Major events. Apophis, known as Apep, is the great serpent, enemy of the sun god Ra in ancient Egyptian religion. The sun was Ra's great barge, which sailed through the sky from dawn to dusk, and then descended into the underworld, okay? And that's beneath the ecliptic. As it sailed through the darkness, it was attacked by Apophis, who sought to kill Ra and prevent sunrise. Okay? There it is. I mean, this is exactly what we're talking about. This is all stellar and solar. On board the great ship, a number of different gods and goddesses are depicted in different eras, as well as the justified dead and all of those who helped fend off the serpent. Ancient Egyptian... Now, this is very important because this explains exactly what NASA is doing. Pay attention here. Ancient Egyptian priests and lay people would engage in rituals to protect Ra and destroy Apophis, and through these observances link the living with the dead and the natural order as established by the gods. Ancient Egyptian priests and lay people would engage in rituals to protect Ra and destroy Apophis. Apep. You don't live in the world you were taught you lived in when you grew up, folks. You live in a world run by sorcery, not science. Okay? Science is the plumbing. All right? And here we go. Now, Set, aka Seth, who became associated with Satan, was originally a protector god. He protected Ra from Apophis. Now, the two figures you see on the left are Thoth, okay, the ibis, and Nekbet, the, the vulture, okay. So, take a look at this here. We have Ra, the sun, who's seated. Who are the three protectors of Ra? Or more accurately, more importantly, how many protectors are there? There's three. Yes, and there we see, there's that Eye of Ra, which I showed you, is galactic center. Galactic center is very, very important in all of this, okay? Now, Set would be slaying Apophis on the other side of the ecliptic. And we'll get into that as well, okay? Because that tells us who Set is. We're going to break the... Well, some of you might have read when I broke the Set code, but Set has... People have been wondering for years who he is. Is he an anteater? Is he this? Is he that? Set is a chimera, and we'll get into that very shortly. Now, back to this whole situation. The three rockets that NASA is not even remotely launching ritualistically from Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia, but it's a part of Virginia which is part of the same peninsula that Delaware and Maryland are. But it's also at the same bay. It's at the head of the bay that leads into Baltimore, Port of Baltimore. So very interesting that they chose this facility to launch these three rockets, which they did not do the last time they did this. We'll talk about that shortly. But what an interesting sync, quote unquote. Yes, they're launching these three rockets from the mouth of the bay. I guess that would be Chesapeake Bay, right? That leads into the Port of Baltimore, which is a major part of our story, okay? And also folds in Algol into the demonic stellar hit parade. Oh my goodness. So this is last year. To study atmosphere, NASA rockets will fly into October eclipse's shadow. The three rockets comprising the APEP mission, so there was APEP even last year, launched on Saturday, October 14th, after Friday the 13th, interesting, from White Sands Missile Range. White Sands Missile Range. And then they flew the data, quote unquote, to Wallops. All right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, NASA. What a joke. Now, White Sands, not only do they have that obelisk there, at the Trinity site, but Twin Peaks fans, I always got to sneak a little Lynch into these things. The mother of demons, the mother of all sorrows, who was unleashed by the Trinity test at White Sands. And there she is, Mother. That's what she's known as. Now the comet is the mother of dragons. Oh my goodness. Arguably, Mother from episode 8 would be the mother of demons, dragons, right? You can watch the Mother Dragons comet from Earth now. That's what they're calling it. 12 Pons Brooks, or 12P Pons Brooks. We're going to get into that name shortly as well. So they're calling this the Mother of Dragons, which I guess is a new name because it was also known as the Devil's Comet. But I guess they took that from Game of Thrones, of course. Oh, my goodness. Now, there's one of these private, quote-unquote, space agencies, Exploration Labs, a Southern California startup, focused on space resources, is planning a 2028 mission to rendezvous with the asteroid Apophis before it reaches Earth. During the mission, X Labs intends to deposit 3 CubeSats. 3, there's those 3 again, right? The 3 helpers of Ra, the 3 protectors of Ra, the 3 rockets, the 3 CubeSats. These people can't help themselves. The flight also is intended to validate systems and software for future campaigns to capture and move near-Earth asteroids into stable orbits for resource acquisition. Never happen. Never going to happen, folks. Never going to happen. Total pipe dream. Just an excuse to waste people's money. All right? Now... NASA to send discs depicting essence of humanity to the moon. Now, what are they expecting? This sounds rather alarming. This is like, putting a time capsule in before a nuclear war for the aliens who land. I don't know what's going on with this, but it's just pure occultism. And how do I know that? Well, just look at the image. We have, I don't know if that would be an inverted hexagram or a sideways hexagram. I guess rotated 45 degrees within a hexagon. Okay, and then we see all this other imagery, the astronaut. It's very similar to the imagery that they put together for the Voyager on that gold disc, but a lot more occult. Okay, this is just straight up sigil magic. That's pretty much what they're doing here. This is sigil. This is an amulet that they're calling a disc. What are they expecting? What are they afraid of? Very, very interesting. And of what use would this be to whomever, aliens, whomever? I mean, it's just absurd. This is magic. This is sorcery. I shudder to think the purpose of it. Okay, but this is the world we're dealing in April of 2024. And I'll just read you this. Sapphire discs, sapphire, precious stones, etched with the essence of humanity, will be sent to the moon under NASA's Artemis program. Of course, Artemis, right? The non-existent moon program, whose original logo was eerily similar to the Tanit statue that some of you might be familiar with, to act as a repository of human knowledge. The project, titled Sanctuary on the Moon, includes examples of mathematics, culture, paleontology, art, and science, as well as the human genomes of a man and a woman. The discs mimic the golden phonograph sent with the Voyager spacecraft, the first ships to leave the solar system, quote unquote. The new discs include schematics for NASA's Saturn rocket and lunar landing modules, which took astronauts to the moon in the Apollo missions, quote unquote, as well as paintings by Leonardo da Vinci and Vincent van Gogh and the Declaration of Human Rights, which is just a big joke to the ruling class. There are also celestial and terrestrial maps, as well as data on anatomy, astrophysics, and particle physics, phases of the moon, and developments such as the combustible engine and flying machines. Why are they doing this? What is the purpose of this? Why are they announcing this so close to the comet and to the eclipse? We might not want to know the answer to that question, my friends, okay? Now this is a close-up, and we see the northern hemisphere of the celestial globe. Okay, correction, southern hemisphere. That's Uranus there. Okay, and the tail of Scorpius. Okay, I'm not exactly sure what that map is on the left. Is that like a flat Earth map? It kind of looks like one. What's going on here? What is NASA up to? This is just absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Completely sorcerous and rather troubling. Okay? So to reiterate, they're doing this in the wake of the comet and the eclipse, which they are ritually attacking in defense of Ra, Amun-Ra, Amun, the hidden god, okay? The hidden one. The ram. Now, somebody on Twitter said this. Oh, I first saw this and I thought it said Delta 8, because I'm always looking. Anyway, Space Operations Command, Space Delta 18. And what do they have there? Pharaoh. And the 8-pointed star of Ishtar. What the hell does this have to do with anything? What the hell does a pharaoh have to do with space operations? National Space Intelligence Center. Are you with me, folks? And also it's in the shape of Starfleet, which is totally Masonic and also includes the Council of Nine, channeling cult, the Watchers. This is, welcome to the new normal, folks. Okay, I'm helping you to navigate the new normal, okay? Because this stuff is going to be everywhere you look. And it's going to be sending messages to each other, to themselves, to us. We need to understand what these people are saying. And it's not just a question, you see so many people say, oh, this is just this. And, there's a language being constructed here through symbolism. What is the language trying to tell us? Okay, what is the language trying to say? That's the important issue here. And it isn't just the fact that they're just playing with this symbolism. It is a language, and more importantly, it is a sorcerous language. A sorcerous language. Okay, this is sorcery you are looking at. Okay, just want to take a quick peek into the chat. All right, here we go. Aurora. Now, I just watched a very interesting little video. So, you've heard all these stories, mostly from neo-pagan sources, that Christian holidays are all sort of rip-offs of ancient pagan holidays. And there are some good scholars, some solid scholars, just debunking that. This whole thing you heard about Easter and Aostra and the bunny and the eggs, all that comes from the 19th century. The only mention of Aostra is a very brief, half a paragraph, like 2 sentences, in the Venerable Bede's book. But none of this is attested. It's all propaganda, which is really curious to me. There's a guy on YouTube who I really recommend you guys watch. His channel's called Religion for Breakfast. It is outstanding. This guy really knows his stuff. He does the research. He does the work. And he did a great debunking of the Sol Invictus Christmas myth as well. Very, very excellent channel. Excellent scholarship. Really need to start taking advantage of just all the excellent free research materials out there, because we're gonna need this stuff. Clown time is over, playtime is over. The superheroes are gone back to Valhalla. No more juvenilia. It's time to grow up and get serious, folks, because otherwise we're not going to survive. Okay? Period. Okay, so this was a week or so ago. Strongest solar storm since 2017 hits Earth, but leaves aurora chases in the dark. What could have been a solar storm of the decade ended up more like a storm in a teacup. Okay, so the 2017 link, of course, is very interesting because of the 2017 eclipse. But 2017, what needs to be said about 2017? It's like 2016, just ate an entire bag full of edibles and read The Secret Sun from start to finish and came out the other side as 2017. Oh my goodness. Now, so in the wake of this Aurora story, when this expected light show did not show up, there was then this very strange story. The SR-91 Aurora Mach 5 spy plane was never real. Wow. If you watch the second episode of X-Files Deep Throat, the Aurora spy plane is a major part of the storyline. Okay? It was never real. It was probably just a complete and total propaganda psych out against the Russians. Very, very interesting. But at the same, now this was just so bizarre. Aurora, Illinois, the same week, 2 days after the first story, unveils a new logo for city's central business district. And it's a depiction of the goddess Aurora, Dawn, who this researcher that I mentioned before identifies with Aostra. And they had these women come out dressed as the goddess and doing this little presentation. Very, very strange. Very strange. But again, the new normal, okay? The new normal. And in the next week, we're a week out from the eclipse. I think we're going to be seeing more of the stuff. So I anticipate being very busy in the next week up until the eclipse. But this is just very strange, okay? Because Dawn, of course, is related to the story of Ra and Apophis, is it not? So we have these three stories on Dawn, okay? But they're all related to the eclipse. Are you with me? Okay, so these are not separate stories. These are all part of this ritual, this massive mega ritual that I'm trying to explain to you guys, all right? Oh, the red heifers. Again, I want to give a heads up to my man Gary for reminding me of this story. I mean, this is a story I've been following for a number of years, but this seems to be picking up speed. In a West Bank settlement, Israelis tend red cows and plan the third temple. Radical plans to slaughter the heifers have raised concern across the Arab world and were even linked by Hamas to the October 7th attack. So these cowboys out in Texas have been trying to raise perfect red heifers. And I'm going to explain to you what the purpose of this is, what the meaning of this is in just a moment. But this is about raising the Al-Aqsa Mosque and rebuilding the Temple of Solomon, okay? Solomon's Temple. Only 9 heifers have been sacrificed since the time of Moses until the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 A.D. The Rambam Maimonides stated that the 10th red heifer ceremony would bring in the Messianic age. So Maimonides believed that the 10th red heifer ceremony would bring in the Messianic age. Likewise, evangelical Christians who hold a futurist view of Bible prophecy believe a third temple will be built and subsequently desecrated by the Antichrist before the return of the Messiah, Yeshua. And again, there's no evidence whatsoever that Jesus ever called himself Yeshua. That is a myth. In November, a senior Palestinian source in contact with Hamas's leadership told Middle East Eye that the group had been closely monitoring efforts to secure a permanent Jewish presence in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The only thing left is the slaughtering of the red heifers, which they imported from the U.S. If they did that, it's a signal to rebuild the third temple. We are in apocalyptic times, folks, okay? I don't know how else to put it. I've been saying this for 7 years now, and people have been making fun of me, but I don't think a lot of people are laughing anymore. Now, this comes from the book of Chronicles, 1 Chronicles. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "This is a requirement of the law that the Lord has commanded. Tell the Israelites to bring you a red heifer without defect and blemish, and that has never been under a yoke. Give it to Eleazar, the priest. It is to be taken outside the camp and slaughtered in his presence. Then Eleazar, the priest, is to take some of its blood on his finger and sprinkle it 7 times in front of the tent of meeting." Blood of the heifer, 7, tent of meeting. What is this all about? Well, it's about the stars, my friends. The Pleiades, the 7 sisters, okay? In Taurus, the bull. So these are the heifers of the Pleiades. The 7 drops of blood that stand in for Astarpe, Tegada, Maya, Selene, Electra, Merope, Alcyone, Pleione, and Atlas. The 7 sisters, the Pleiades. That's the point of sprinkling the blood 7 times towards the front of the tent of meeting, which is Auriga. Auriga, the house of David. Auriga is the house of David, the charioteer, the shepherd. Okay? You might remember I showed you that the icons of Auriga were mirrored in depictions of King David when he was a shepherd boy. Shepherd boy! Yes, Buckley. Oh my goodness, it never ends. So we see Taurus. Okay, so Taurus is the heifer that needs to be slaughtered to open the temple, which is Auriga. The temple is Auriga, the house of David. Okay, Capella is the temple of Solomon. And remember that Capella was used in one of those Algol warships. So this is what this is about. This is all stellar, because stellar symbolism is at the basis of all the world's major religions. Okay, period. And this doesn't mean they're not true. This doesn't mean that they're myth. It means that, I think it means the opposite, to be perfectly frank. But interestingly enough, Auriga is depicted variously as a pentagon, next to the Twin Towers, of course, or a hexagon. It depends on who's looking at it, I guess. But there are depictions you can find of it being a perfect pentagon and also a perfect hexagon. Hexagon, yes. The house of David, the Star of David, the Star of David. Okay, Capella. House of David. This is all stellar symbolism, my friends. And like I said, this doesn't mean that it's not based in truth. Again, you know me. I mean, I think the exact opposite. I just want to reiterate that. But also, we talked about Nekhbet before, right? The vulture goddess, who I believe was the Egyptians' version of Altair the eagle. And here she is with the 7 Uriasis, models for the seraphim, the burning serpents. Now, this is well attested that the Uriae, I guess the plural would be Uriae, but that kind of looks stupid, so I wrote Uriases, are the models for the seraphim, the burning serpents, okay? So there we go, the 7 sisters yet again. And look at all those stars. This is all stellar. This is all stellar symbolism, on earth as it is in the heavens. On earth as it is in the heavens. Heaven's mirror. Okay? This is all about bringing heaven down to earth. All right? Oh, CERN. I got to take a drink. Hold on a sec.